You were live.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Coffee Talk. I am super excited. So do you go by Bobby? Or is there like an official?
Yeah, so apparently that's a little boy's name. There was a TV show not recently where they were trying to figure out a suspect, and they're like, well, how about Bobby? Like, nah, Bobby's a kid's name. Robert. I'm like, nah, I never lost that. My last name is hard to pronounce. Mm-hmm. So everyone just
Bobby
calls
G.
Bob. There you go. See,
Bobby
I didn't have to tell you that.
G.
Yeah.
We got you.
You got it.
So you are a systems engineer.
Yes.
Which may be very surprising for the viewers. And that's kind of a part of our coffee talk, is talking about how what you do and what you look like can sometimes be different. Yeah.
You notice I put that. Did you set me up for that, or is that really
kind
true?
of a little bit? It was almost like in volleyball where you
you lobbed it up there.
Yeah.
Did I spike it, or was that just kind of I laid it over?
You're about to spike it. It's still in the air. It's happening.
All right.
So how did you get into doing engineering? How
without going into too finite details, when I was out processing from the Gulf, your last 30 days they call tap out, your transition processing. So I got put in the shop because before I got into some other stuff, I was actually a weather guesser, weatherman in the Navy. Not
What?
a weatherman, not a meteorologist. It's a weather guesser.
A weather guesser.
I can bore you with the clouds. I'm the guy that you'll see riding, even though you know it's going to rain, and I'm like, it's not going to rain. We're good.
No way.
Yeah, useless information, but anyways.
That's great. That's actually kind of usal in Florida, though.
It does help
riding.
Motorcycle. It does.
Yeah.
So they put me in the shop, and I'm working with this kid who was about the size of this bottle or can, and he got treated very well, and by the officers, and we did. And I'm like, so we're out here doing this, and we get treated like crap. Mm-hmm. And what do you do? So he said at the time he was IT. Back then he was a Novell administrator, which doesn't exist anymore, but that guy made Active Directory, made Microsoft. Mm-hmm. So I said, all right, well, I couldn't even turn on a computer. I go, well, tell me about it. So he told me what he did and what he was going to make when he got out. I'm like, really? So interesting enough, he, like I said, he was not a real big guy. He was young. He was like 20 years old.
Yeah.
He wanted to go out, but I happened to mention at lunch, he goes, where are you going? And I go, I forgot whatever the bar thing was. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, come on, I'll buy you a sandwich, whatever. And he goes, nah, I don't go over there. He goes, it's not my kind of place for every stereotype in the world, right?
Right.
This is a lot what you've read, why I've learned, I think I'm open-minded now.
Yeah.
But the military is a testosterone-filled environment, and exactly what you would expect. So I'm like, what? Because it never occurred to me. I go, what? There's no problems there. He goes, not for you. I'm like, all right. I go, I tell you what. I go, I got it. So my mind, I'm always thinking, I'm like, you can't teach me computers. I go, I want you to show me some basics, just basic stuff, and I want to see if I have an aptitude for it. Because now in my head, I'm like, this is something I can do, right?
Yeah.
So, and I said, and what I'll do is, I'll tell you what, is you can hang out with all the boys. I'll bring you to the bars, and nobody will mess with you, I promise. True story. I said, I can't promise you're going to pick up any young ladies. I go, I'll introduce you. I go,
but then it's on you.
It's on you after that. So that was kind of the little deal I made with him.
Okay. Yeah. And then
his first name was Terry. I won't say his last name.
Did you kind of find at that point that you had a natural knack?
Yeah, it was nothing earth-shattering, but for something to happen, and it made common sense. Like, well, you guys do all this stuff, so anybody can learn this stuff and take tests and all that. That's why certifications don't impress me when I'm interviewing people. But in aptitude, troubleshooting, you can't teach that. You either it's for any job, right? Mechanics impress me because I don't know what a combustible engine does. I mean, I know what it does. I can't fix it. So same thing with IT. So I was like, I forgot what happened, but in my mind, I thought about it logically. I'm like, all right. So I'm like, I think I can do it. At least it was enough for me to go, yeah, I want to try that.
Right. Yeah. The problem-solving brain is so interesting to me. That's like what I would say Ryan and Pastor Larry both have. Like, if there's anything that's broken or wrong or whatever, they can seriously like just look at it and then suddenly they know what to do.
If you think about it, right?
Yeah, like that systems brain.
Yeah, the network engine. I mean, that sounds more mechanically inclined than me, but yeah, just if you think about how a network works, you'd be surprised any of it works. Like how we're talking right now, how you're streaming it. Nobody cares about OSI model TCP/IP, right? But it's actually fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, I've asked somebody this question before. I forgot who it was. So Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Do you understand how that works?
It's not complicated.
Okay, please try to explain it to me, because I honestly have no idea how signals pass through the air. Like, how did somebody invent that? How did somebody decide, like, oh, we usually have, like, cables plugging these things and, like, it's physical. There's obviously, like, a point that it goes from here to here. And then one day it was just not
how we can get digitally streamed packets over the air?
Yes.
With radio waves and things
and
like that.
I can text you a picture and it just shows
it's amazing,
up.
Isn't it?
How does that work?
Well, you take a packet at layer 7, you encapsulate it down to layer 1, I don't want to go through the whole process. It's very boring. This is what you need to know.
Treat it like it's a 5-year-old.
Yes.
Yeah,
Explain
I'm
like
a
it's 5.
5-year-old.
So
Not for Rita. That's the thing. Like that Reddit thing.
I'm representing.
I'm not saying you're the 5-year-old.
You've got a
I get it.
meme on your computer
Okay.
of one of them juicy people from Siesta
Yes, right.
And you say, you know what? My husband would really love to see that, even though he probably couldn't care less. That's another pet peeve. Couldn't versus could care less, right?
I could not.
Yeah, exactly. See,
If I could, I would just care less.
Yeah.
I know. I had a boss. He used to correct me all the time. I go, I could care less, and he'd be like, "So you love him more than anything?" I'm like, "Whoops, all right, you're right. You got me."
Yeah.
So we take the picture of Mr. Hunk, okay, and you need to send him to your boy toy.
I
right?
need to, yeah.
So there's a process, unbeknownst to you, when you start attaching it and send it, that it takes that picture of that nice hunk guy and it breaks it down from we won't go through the layers, but layer 7 to layer 1.
Okay.
So basically zeros and ones.
Okay.
As boring as it sounds, everything is zeros and ones.
That's-
Every
I've
picture you
heard
send,
that,
every time,
yeah.
it's binary.
Okay.
We won't get into hexadecimal and all numbering and all that, but so it gets down these little digits, okay, zeros and ones, and they got to crawl through over the wire. But now what they do is they do it digitally, right? So they encapsulate into a packet.
Okay.
Think of a packet as like a capsule. How about that?
Okay.
Like a Tylenol capsule.
Okay.
That's called a datagram.
Okay.
Okay. And then now that's a car. Now we need a highway to drive that car over. And that's where TCP/IP comes in. That runs the internet. You don't know what it is, you don't care, but every teenage girl in America should thank the guy who invented that and who continually adds to it.
Yeah.
So now it's decapsulating to this little zeros and ones in this little Advil capsule,
Okay.
right? So it
I
drives
thought it was
over this.
Tylenol, though.
Tylenol. Very good. I take Excedrin, so I was trying to think of what is capsule.
Yeah.
So it travels over this highway, whether it's a
Okay.
wire or digital. And the digital is by connected access points. So
Just in the
it's
air.
a virtual highway. It's magic.
Seriously.
She's
Seriously.
so pretty.
We'll just go with magic, right?
So it travels these waves, digital waves, down this packet, the little Tylenol capsule. They go over to it. Now, once it hits Boy Toy's phone, or actually server, back at Verizon or whoever your provider is, it was decapsulating this little Tylenol capsule. Now it expands. So it works its way up from layer 1. We're not going to go through layers again. But by layer 7 is what you care about. That's the picture of Mr. Hunk. At layer 1, it's a physical medium, zeros and ones.
Okay.
That was very boring, I feel.
I think that was a
Yeah.
decent
Is that a
explanation.
layman's
It
terms?
is.
honestly.
Yeah. That was
worked.
great. The magic part, though, that's the thing.
Signals connected by access points.
Okay.
That's why if you're in your house and your Wi-Fi doesn't work sometimes because you've got a cement wall or something, it got blocked. So
Okay.
they need endpoints. It's not magically going over some, it's not
Like a TV
It's not
remote, like-
unicorns and pixie dust, right?
Dang it.
There's actually access points connect somewhere that signal is connected to. It needs a phone home kind of thing.
Okay. ET. Got it.
Is that better?
Yeah.
That was way before your time. I'm
That's
impressed,
actually
you know
the movie that scared me the most. I was like kind of pressured into renting it. Then I watched it, and the part where E.T.'s like dying in the bathroom and he's all like powdery and pale, I was like, I'll never watch this
See, I
again.
thought you were going to say the part where you looked at Drew Barrymore and you're like, oh, she's going to be an alcoholic or a drug abuser at 9 years old.
I know.
You fooled
She
me
was
on that one.
so cute in that. Okay, so I would love to talk about your time at Harvard and also correct the people who think Harvard is just a school.
Okay. What do you want with that? Okay. Harvard's a business. It's a very impressive entity, obviously. The undergrad population isn't big. I don't know, 4,000 to 5,000. It's not even the most expensive school in the United States.
Ooh.
When I was there, it just hit 50 grand. It's all ridiculous. I went to
Yeah.
UF, and I'm
Okay.
old, so when I went there, tuition to me was expensive, but it was actually cheap.
Yeah.
It just hit 50 grand when I was there. BU, BC, things like that are more expensive. But it employs, when I was there, it was almost 18,000 people. It's a lot
Wow.
of people, right?
Yeah.
Their endowment at that time was 37 billion. Think about that, 37 billion in cash. It was more than twice as much as the next university, which was whatever, Yale, Notre Dame, whatever. It's a business.
Yeah.
Like they have high-end, group, financial group that manages that, and that's their job. It's just like their own little stock exchange, right? So it's very impressive. They own half of Cambridge and some of the neighboring towns. Their tax exempt. There's a lot of smart. It was the first university in America. It's in the heart. Boston started America pretty much, right? I mean, New York will argue, but there's a lot of old network there, and they've got their fingers. And I don't think they pay taxes. Here's a good example. So I'm an employee. I was an employee there. They own a ton of garages. Why do I have to pay for an employee? My employer owns parking, a garage, and I still pay like $1,500 a year to park.
What?
So they make money. They're not
Yeah.
there to lose money.
Right.
But they're a great employer. If you want to, I could have retired there, and I could have ended up dying. I had a point where my father passed away, and my mom was down here. I'm like, I was always going to come back here, and I'm like, you know what? We're going to gonna move the timetable a little bit because the rest of the family stays in Boston. So I enjoy my time there. The one thing I will say, some of the smartest people I've ever seen in my life, geniuses, but then there's some people on the other side of the coin too.
Really?
My second day there, I'm sitting in the cube, and there was a security guy on 2 cubes over, and he had been there a while, so he was obviously comfortable. And there's the Harvard in front of closed doors and behind, right? Again, I got nothing negative to say about it. They treat me very well. All I hear is, what the F do you have to do to get fired in this place? Because he was dealing with somebody who wasn't splitting atoms and probably did say could care less. So that was my first introduction. I'm like, all right, so this isn't what I think.
Yeah.
And then another time I got frustrated with something, and religion, abortion, politics, I try not to talk about.
Really? Just in general?
Well, yeah, because people just, I always take the fifth. I'm like, hey, look, I go, and people, when they find it, like, they automatically look at, if you look at me, you're going to think I'm a right-wing gun nut. I do like guns. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, right? I try to stay in the middle.
Ooh, do you take a label?
What's that? No. I can't even think what it is now, but when I registered to vote, you can do away, so you can actually vote in both primaries. So you're not either party, right? So the way I look at it, I say, look, you can say whatever you want. I feel I had a smaller piece in that being in the military and every other veteran who's helped defend this country. So you're not actually upsetting me by your opinions, as grotesque as I think they are.
Right.
They're your opinions. I can't do anything about it. And then I actually shut this one young lady up one time who was just spewing nastiness for no reason. I'm like, what? Why are you so angry? What? Like, we didn't say any. What? But just her impression of looking at us, right? And I start smiling. She goes, what do you? And that made her even more mad, right? I go, because you're allowed to talk like this because, guys like me help military. That's what defends us.
Right.
That's not true. I go, look, I've been around most of the world, honey, and I go, this isn't the best. I go, this isn't perfect. There's a lot of work to be done here. I go, but it's one of the best deals around. I've seen how women are treated, except for Western Europe, which I was never part of, right? But, when you go through Asia and mainly the Gulf and different places like that, it's pretty nasty. So I'm like, I go, keep yelling at me. It makes me happy. You're not upsetting me at all.
Right. The freedom of speech and the ability for people to say what they feel and how they feel, I think is one of those things that maybe a lot of people are taking for granted just because.
It's an understatement, but
yeah.
I mean, nowadays,
Can you imagine not being able to express what you truly feel and knowing that there are certain words that if you were to say them, you could get in like real trouble just for saying a word? I think that concept is, I don't think people, well, I think some people have fully internalized and they realize like, okay, we need to make sure that this isn't something that we just freely kind of give away. But for you to have kind of been around the world and seen all these different things, do you have a different view of America and everything that America has done and stands for? Like,
oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. I mean, because I grew up in New Smyrna, which is like Sarasota. I went to high school there, but I grew up in the South before the internet, so it was the South. And when we first came down from Boston, it seemed stupid. My first experience, I was 8 years old, so we crossed, we're in North Carolina. So it's like we stopped at a gas station. So my mother, to this day, still has a wicked accent, bad. Because they say wherever you're at 8 years old is where you're going to talk the rest of your life. So she's been here 40 years, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So this guy hears her, the guy working there, and my father was a badass. He's passed away now, but he did 2 tours in Nam. He wasn't a wuss. Yeah. And this guy, I'll never forget it. I remember being young, going, "Wow, this guy's not afraid." Well, it turns out Joe Bob probably had a gun right behind him, but he just looks. He goes, "Y'all need to turn around, and go back where you came from." And I can remember my mother going, "We're out of here, Ray. Forget this. Take me back to Boston." That was the first Southern experience we had, because we had driven through the night. So besides Virginia, we basically lived, every state all the way down, with the exception of Alabama. So I've lived in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, obviously Florida, and Tennessee.
Wow.
And I actually did live in Alabama for a little bit. But so the South then versus now, and then going back up north, and then going across the world. Yeah, there's a lot of problems here. The thing about America, what I didn't realize till I left, was you look at the rest of the world, like we think, well, why can't they just be like us? Sherry said she was from Iowa, right? Dave's from Ohio. My buddy Kirk's from Virginia. I'm from Boston. Got some people. Well, California to me is their own entity now, anyways. But you're like, well, why aren't we all the same? It's like, do you realize that each state is like a country anywhere else? It's like 50 countries. Yeah. You take Germany. Germany's the size of 2 Wisconsins. You know what I mean? Think of it like that. France is like, whatever, Iowa. Yeah. So you don't realize it's like, to keep all this together, it is wild. Yeah, and plus there's a lot of cool stuff here.
Right.
Yeah. I've been around the world. Like, yeah, you don't like it, go try it. Go see
Yeah.
how it works out for you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
It also seems like if you don't like the state that you're in, go to a different state.
Well, you have that freedom.
There's
No passport.
no,
Right.
like if you don't like it here, go to California.
Yeah.
If you don't like California, try New York, Texas.
I didn't like the winters in Boston. I'm in Sarasota. This
Yeah.
is paradise.
Absolutely.
Like I said, you will never hear me complain about the heat.
Yeah.
Never.
Have you ever been in a place that's hotter than Florida?
The Gulf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it like wet hot where it's just like
No, it's the sun. You're sitting on the
Yeah.
sun. It's ridiculous, especially on all your gear. Yeah, when they say it's 130. I remember the temperatures being 110, 115, but the max apparent on your body is like 130, 130. What it's hot.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So they're like, well, it's a dry heat now. Shove that somewhere because I don't buy that
Yeah.
either.
Oh.
I've partied in Arizona before too, and yeah, don't give me that dry heat stuff. It's hot.
Yeah.
Hot is hot.
Oh, so my dad's from Arizona, and I remember it was the weirdest thing to be standing out in the sun, and then I walked into the shade, and I was like, this is weird. Like, you can actually feel a difference when there is shade. Like, it's weird. In Florida, it's just like hot everywhere. It feels like you're walking through like a mist of just like...
Yeah, wet.
What you're not going to complain about it, but for the people who have frizzy hair in the summertime, and we don't like rain, things like that, what is it about Florida that makes you say, like, this is paradise, this is the best? Because we have alligators, we have snakes, we have spiders. Weather is one of those things that you can love or hate. What else? There's crazy things in Florida. We live in, like, the wild. Like, this was a swampland that people developed. And you're
Yeah.
like, this is paradise. Why?
Two simple examples. Because whether it's July or December, I wake up and I put on the exact same clothes at 6 in the morning to go to the gym. The exact same outfit.
Yeah.
I go out to my truck, I start it, and I leave. I don't warm it up for 20 minutes. I don't put so many clothes on. I look like Cartman from South Park to try to shovel for 2 hours, come in sweating, hot, cold.
Yeah.
I just get up and go, no matter what. To me, it's very consistent.
Okay.
And, I mean, you know, I enjoy certain liberties that are here. Where up north, it's a little more uptight. Harleys, I can ride my motorcycle. The roads, some of the traffic's annoying, but I like it. I
Yeah.
think it's good. Florida is very different. Like I said, I feel there's two Floridas. We talked about that. There's like Sarasota, or where I grew up, New Smyrna. That's Florida. That's the beach. That's not the South.
Right.
You go a few miles. Like I said, I drove across state Friday to Palm Beach. I drive a lot for work. That's the South. I still come across towns when I'm either going to Tallahassee or a place like that I've never seen or heard before.
Yeah.
So, and you know, and there are no law enforcement around. It just kind of,
Right.
yeah, feels a little.
Yeah, you get out into Arcadia, Okeechobee, Indian Town. That
So
becomes-
that's the path I take. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I
I
go.
used to live in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Or West Palm. Not
My favorite place in the world, well, not favorite place in the world, but the most humorous place to me, in Indian Town. Is it Okeechobee, Indian Town? I think it's Indian Town. It is Indian Town. There's a place called Three Amigos in Chef Wang. It is a combo. It's a smaller place about the size of this table. It is to go Mexican and Chinese food.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Tell me what state can you go and see?
In a place called Indian Town.
Yeah. And I looked, and you know, the first time I went to it, because keep in mind, almost 7 years at Harvard and being back in the Northeast in Boston, little different tone that comes. So I come down here, so I'm very sheltered, but everyone in the world. But you put yourself in a different mindset, what you don't say, what you don't think, and
Yeah.
it's a lot more open down here. We'll say it that. That's a polite way of saying it. So the first time I go through there for work, I'm like, Jesus, Indian Town, it's kind of the hell. Then I started looking around. I'm like, okay, yeah. Their idea, because
Yeah.
I remember, so I talk a lot. I talked to a lady at the store,
Yeah.
and she gave me some history I couldn't really understand, but it basically let me know that okay, it was okay. It's not a racist name. Like,
Right.
this was chosen not by us.
Right. Yeah.
And plus, they had to go Mexican and Chinese in the same place.
Have you been there?
Oh yeah, I've been in Indian Town. We used to drive through there like every weekend because
Yeah.
we were back and forth West Palm Beach.
I think the craziest part of that drive is the amount of cows in fields and people not understanding like Florida has that as well. It's not just beaches and vacation and like
No.
siesta key fun time. It's like there's orchards of oranges. Like, oh,
The
you
sod
ever-
farms. I didn't realize that. I guess
Yeah.
grass has to come from somewhere. Whoever knew that, right?
Right.
Cocoa sod farm. I see it on the way there.
Right.
Before Indian Town.
Do you ever pass by the one? I think it's Tropicana or something.
Yeah.
But you just smell the oranges. Like
Yep.
it's really crazy. It's cool.
And like I said, I heard there were more cows in Florida than Texas, which doesn't make sense to me. But
Right.
apparently it's true for a while because it's the way they birth them here or something. That didn't make
Don't
sense
we have
to me.
buffalo here too?
Bison? I've seen
Just
some
made it even
bison.
better. I mean, I have never seen one. I had a bison burger at Longhorn.
Yeah, if
I
it's
think that
local,
comes from,
Mayaca has
Mayaca, yeah.
they have a bison farm out there, and there's a little cafe that's up or down. Where's Venice?
Down.
I'm so
You
bad
mean
at
the place you live?
Yes, I know.
She's always
It's
like
bad.
up in Venice. I'm like,
Let me
no.
guess. You drive. You do the driving.
No, we both drive. I've lived in Sarasota my entire life up until recently. So for some reason, I've never lived south.
That's
It's
fascinating.
always-
Have you traveled anywhere?
We've been a few places. Like I've been to a few different states. We've went to Norway. Like there's a few places that I've been, but for some reason, it's like going south just does not make sense to me for Venice. I think it's because I just thought Venice was north my entire life until we lived there. I'm like, wait, no, actually it's not.
When it gets real confusing is when you move from one side of the state to the other, and then the water is on one side and then
Oh,
it's on the
yeah.
other.
Like me.
And you're going, am I going north or south right now? It
Exactly
just starts to
right.
mess with you.
So when I take Alligator Alley a lot, so when driving through like Punta Gorda and stuff or Punta, I don't know if I get whatever I say around here, I get.
You sound
corrected.
more authentic with punta.
Yeah, so
Punta.
so I always get these. So you can't be a Floridian, you can't even talk. She's gonna hold me to pronunciations.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see the water. I'm like, the first time going down the way you just said it. I'm like, oh, it's on my right side. I'm like, oh yeah, that's west. Okay, I got it. Yeah. And then
That's
first thing
pretty
I go over the
crazy.
Skyway, I was confused. There's water on both sides. You don't know which is the bay.
Where else do you get that? I mean, where else are you having an opportunity to drive on both sides and there's just like seemingly ocean
Yeah.
on both sides?
Skyway's pretty exactly.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to do that. You'd have to go from, the east coast of, I guess, Texas. You
Golden
could get
Gate.
somewhere. Yeah. Golden Gate.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I might have been intoxicated when I went over that, so I thought there was water on both sides.
One of the things that you said was you like to talk about any period in history.
Yes.
Does that go like the span of all of
it's
history?
a great attention getter to pick up women. They love it. Roman history. Oh, yeah.
Roman history. Okay.
Any of it.
What about ancient Egypt?
Yes, I can actually tell you where the Ptolemies and all them came from. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I have some
Cleopatra
questions.
wasn't that hot, by the way, just so you know. It was her personality, charm, and wit.
And the crazy like winged eyeliner that she wore. Okay. So my question for you is, well, first there's a 2-part question.
Here we go.
Number one.
Sherry didn't tell me I was going to get quizzed.
It's not really a quiz. It's more of an opinion.
Okay. I got
Do
plenty of
you
those.
believe in aliens?
Here's what I believe in. So I went to UF.
Mm-hmm.
I took an astronomy class. So that's when I learned about SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Again, you learn, life's a learning process. I was uptight, right wing, a little homophobic when I was 16, 17, because that's just the town we grew up in. I'm completely 180 of that now. Aliens would be one of those. Again, a boring interlude to that. But the reason is because when I took this class, I didn't realize, okay, so our sun is one star. And if we were like in a bar fight, our sun's kind of not really tough. It's kind of half size. Like he's a little guy, right?
Right.
And from that, it's 9 planets. They let Pluto back in, right?
They did?
I believe so. I think it's
Oh,
the
I
9th planet
hope
again.
so.
They did.
That
It's
was
back
the saddest
Well, if you
day.
watch Alf, there's actually a 10th planet named Dave. We just don't know about it. So think about it. So there's 9 planets. One sustains life, right?
Yeah.
And Venus or Mars at one time, depending on whatever. So our star, which I can't even calculate this number, is one of 150 billion stars.
A lot of them.
And
Yeah.
you couldn't count to 150 billion your whole lifetime if you just started counting, right? So it'd be pretty arrogant, I think, to think that we're the only one. And what's the nearest star is like 6 light years away, which is 25 trillion miles or whatever. I'm not that bright, but if I'm remembering correctly, that was a long time ago I took that class.
Yeah.
Again, long-winded answer, but it's like religion to me. It's like, you're pretty arrogant if you think everything you believe in is all there is, right?
Right.
So if we think we're it, you know what I mean? I mean, maybe there are, and they've looked at us and go, no, we're going to just leave you guys.
Yeah,
alone.
yeah.
You guys need to figure stuff out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That was great because my second part of that question is, do you think that something like ancient Egypt or potentially in the past aliens or some other, not what we are, like we're human beings, right? Like we have things going on, but you look at ancient Egypt and you're like, I don't know if that was the same kind of thing, same kind of being that built this and built it so well that it still lasts. So when you look at history, when you look at different times, does anything stand out to you as like maybe a different type of intelligence was there and built those things and either was eradicated or left or whatever? Is there any part of you that's like, ooh, maybe humans
Pyramids
weren't?
really fascinating. Is that where you're
They
going with this?
really do, yeah.
A lot of misconceptions about that. One, that the poor slaves and all that. It turns out that that's probably debunked. It was actually laborers and workers, and they didn't just grab the poor. You know what I mean? I think if you look at that, that could have been like the aliens that are way ahead of us, obviously. They had a big cake party, and it looks like what they left in Egypt's kind of the remains, right? The pyramid and all that. It's like when you guys used to party here in the fields, I heard, and kind of left. Did the mesh
Who told you that?
And my girlfriend actually did. She pointed one out. We were driving. I'm like, no, you just stop. So I go, look, I defend Florida to the homeland all the time in Boston, right? So I'm like a man without a country now because Boston doesn't accept me anymore, and I can't even be a Floridian.
No, you are a Floridian.
Thank you for that.
You are. Today,
tell the
you've
big rednecks
been
I hang
dubbed.
out with, yeah.
He is a Floridian.
They're bigger than me, and they're tougher, so
yeah,
tell them that.
Well, they're not here, so.
Yeah, it's possible, absolutely. If you look back at like the Mayans, some of the stuff they did with all that, like it's pretty impressive, right?
Right.
And it's even more impressive if you think they did with primitive tools. I guess the question is a valid question, especially with the Roman. How did with things so advanced, and then we hit that turning period, whatever you believe in. But when we went from BC to it's not AD anymore, it's CE, right? Common Era and before Common Era, BC, right? So
they're working on that.
Yeah, I know they're still trying to figure that out.
They're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
So that transition, we went backwards for a while, right? And now we're going to advance. So how did that happen if there were no aliens, right?
Right.
Look at you, huh? Valid question.
This kind of stuff just makes
You think about this a lot, I can tell. She's been waiting to ask this
I know.
question.
Oh, yeah.
It was just sitting there, and it's
All
like,
right.
Rita, you got to pop this out. You got to ask. Can you tell me how you got into riding motorcycles? Was this something that you always?
Yeah, I want to do it my whole life.
Yeah?
Yeah, my old man rode, my old man was a badass, and he rode Harleys. And then I wanted to. Boston's a tough place. Then I had kids, and real life happens, and you've got to be responsible. And then when I came down here, I was going to wait till I turned 50, and my girls were all over 18, which they are now. But a few years ago, I'm like, no, I could die tomorrow. So I've tried a lot of things in my life. I'll try if I'm not. They call it fickle. I call it tries things. But some comes in I want to try. I tried snowboarding at 30. Stuff like that, right? So I just went out and bought one. I got lucky as I hooked up with guys like Dave and the other guys you met. I hooked up with a bunch of guys literally the first day I started riding. So I learned to ride quick. My learning curve was stepped up. So I wanted to my whole life.
Yeah.
People, why do you love it so much? Well, if I have to explain it, then you wouldn't get it, right?
Right.
I'm tired of hearing dangerous and blah, blah, all that, I should have been dead 10 times over. So that doesn't scare me, knock on wood, because I jinx myself. But to me, it's the only time you're totally decompressed. There's no technology, there's no work, there's no family, there's nothing.
Well, it's like freedom. You're basically flying.
Yeah.
You're sitting
See
on
your
a
land,
thing.
right? It's the land version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously. That is
You
wild.
have to be hypersensitive. There's a skill set involved. Like there's a lot of different things you have to coordinate at the same time as you're doing it. So
It's like a meditation almost.
pretty much, yeah. You disengage. And there is something you hear, the wind in the hair, and you're like, wow, that dirtbag sounds like he's crazy. It's true, though. As soon as I get on there and I kick it in second, once you drop that hammer and just a little breeze coming up, because I live right off Clark Road, right by here, you feel that. You're like, all right, all's right in the world again. Yeah.
I've heard it described that way
Therapeutic.
by this
I
guy.
was gonna say we've gone through that.
I know.
Yeah, that's right, because you guys actually had your own little shot. That's
Yeah.
right, I remember that. He's done it a step further than I have. But
Right.
Yeah, it's
I just love him too
just
much.
too dangerous.
I know.
Well, that's
I'm
the
not
thing.
even. It's not even dying. It's like
Maiming,
breaking, ripping, having both of your legs ripped off. That
Yeah,
scares me
yeah.
more.
That's. That's part of a little bit of the thrill, though, too, right? There's
is.
an inherent danger.
It is.
Right.
You have to be hypersensitive, because I've almost been wiped out a few times, and then I actually stopped a guy. I was with my ex this couple years ago, and he basically did a U-turn right in front of us in a Cadillac. This old guy, he's drinking coffee, and he had a newspaper, and it was Sunday morning. And I usually let stuff go unless I have a passenger. So I actually sped up, and I cut him off, right in the lane. I got off, and I was a little upset, a little irate.
Yeah.
I know I'm a frail fellow, but there was some anger in my voice.
Yeah.
But I looked at his face when I started yelling in his window, and I could tell he had no clue. He had no clue I was there.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you got to pay attention. I
Yeah.
go, I go, do you have a mother? Yeah. I go, well, I do too, and she loves me. So
Yeah.
look out. So you got to be
Well,
hypersensitive.
and texting and driving is such a thing these days. Like everybody knows that it's bad.
Right.
Everybody says they don't want to do it and
But they
that
do.
it's bad, and everybody does.
They
it.
do. They do. I will be honest. I was guilty of that.
Yeah.
But once I started riding motorcycles,
Oh, yeah.
what made me stop is I saw this YouTube video, and there was a guy.
While you were driving.
I'm watching it on my screen, right? Well, I put the screen in front of the windshield.
Well,
Doesn't
yeah.
matter.
of course,
It makes
that's
it
fine
okay,
then.
right? I could see the road and him.
Yeah.
Guy's on a motorcycle, and he's pulling up to the school bus. So he's slowing down exactly like he should. And this 150 comes right behind him and just wipes him out. Throws him on the bus. He shattered almost every bone in his body. It was his girlfriend. She was following him. They were picking up the kid or doing something. and she was texting.
Oh, no.
So I'm like, yeah, that's the end of texting and driving. Yeah.
That is so crazy.
I like how we transition from aliens to that.
Yeah.
And I think we start off with a Harvard question.
Yeah. We talked about it all.
Welcome-
The title.
How many arguments do you
Welcome
win?
to Coffee Talk.
I've already been. I've
Welcome
been
to
married and
Coffee
divorced.
Talk.
I get it. You're not gonna. The guy in here who tells me he wins arguments, woman, he's a liar.
I'm not
And
saying that.
the second one who says he figures them out is even more lying.
Oh, I'm not saying that either, man.
Look, I don't think women even have themselves figured out. I don't think anybody really. We're all human beings. We're all crazy animals.
Let me
that
interview
just-
you for a second.
Do it.
Are women more intelligent than men? And there's only one correct answer here.
Okay, as a woman speaking, I think some women and some men are smarter than some women and some men.
That
Very
was a
very
totally
political answer, right?
Dear. The answer is yes, they are.
No, I think that. So there is such.
You like to
thing.
let us believe certain things. There's certain things we can do. You're right. There's inherent differences, but
I don't think smarter. I think women are more cunning. I think that you know how they say
well, that's like I understood. You don't have to say that.
you know how they say like poison is the woman's like weapon or whatever, that like it's the not like the brute force,
You
it's
said
more the
voice
secretive
wrong.
thing. Voice what?
And it's that.
Oh, their voice poison, yeah. But that's the thing, is I think women have a way about them that seems almost like witchcraft. Like way back in the day, men would be like, oh, she's getting into my head and like she's gonna make me do things.
Well, it is funny that we didn't have many men that we burned for witchcraft.
True. And I
Well,
just think it's
you just connect a few. Salem could have used you in the 1690s.
Wait a second.
I actually lived in that town, so that's actually
really?
where I lived. It's north of
wow.
Boston. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it haunted?
It's actually called Danvers, not Salem, because it was part of the village back
Okay.
then. It's not haunted, but you know how that all started? You guys
No.
want some useless information?
Yes.
Yes,
please.
They talk about the Puritans and they were so good and we're so evil and you guys are a lot younger than me, you kids, all premarital sex. That's how it started. There were girls out there messing with boys they shouldn't have been. And that first lady they caught, I forget her. I'm not gonna say Rebecca Nurse. I forgot her name, but that's the homestead where they actually killed them.
Wow.
She caught them. So before she could bag them and say, "Hey, look, guess what little Johnny and Ann are doing?" and they're ostracized because you would literally be ostracized from the village.
Right.
They went back and said, "Hey, we saw what's her name, and she's a witch, and she's doing crazy things." And they started acting weird and faking trances because it turned out they all realized after they were embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
That's how it started, premarital sex. So just so you know, useless information from a Boston guy: a third of pregnancies back then unwed mothers in the Puritan era.
Ooh.
There you go. There's some
Interesting.
useless information for you. You can throw that out at a party.
I don't know if it's useless. I think any history is something.
They
Right.
they debunked it. You guys in high school have to read The Scarlet Letter, Nathaniel
We were
Hawthorne.
just talking
Dude,
about that
that's so
yesterday.
weird.
So if you look at Hawthorne, look at how his name's spelled. There's a W in it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's because his grandfather was that judge.
Really?
He was so embarrassed that Hathorne spelled it Hathorne. His grandson, the author, added a W in there.
Whoa.
Because they're like, so even back then they realized, hey, you know what? You guys are a little out there. After it all happened, after they killed people, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Whatever it was, 17 or something like that. Yeah, let's crush somebody for stone because he's a witch. That makes sense.
That's, well, she.
Well, no, there was a guy too.
was a guy.
There was a guy. Yeah, there was a guy.
One guy.
He actually there
Got
was,
cut up with
I
the
think
wrong
there was
crowd.
only one. They crushed him with stones. They put him between
Wow.
two pieces of wood and just started putting rocks on.
That's the way to go that I just don't ever want to think about
If
that.
you guys got a lot of vacations to plan, don't go to Salem Tourism wouldn't like me for saying that. It's a tourist trap. Just ask me. Come hang out with me. Buy me a couple beers.
What about
Okay.
St.
I'll tell you
I was
all
gonna
about
say.
it. I'll tell you all about it.
Give us a
St.
tour.
Augustine is supposed to be the oldest
It is.
city.
It's not supposed to. It is the oldest city in America. The oldest
So
city.
it's, but
We
that's
went.
haunted,
We went there
right?
last year.
Last year, I think.
That was fun. That was a pretty cool
I
time.
love places that they're like, everything is haunted.
Yeah, the fort and all that's pretty cool there.
Yeah. But even the houses, you walk by the neighborhoods and stuff, and you're like, that's a witch's house. That's a witch's house. There's a ghost up there. Like, it's just fun. It's a fun time. Okay, so before we go,
Yep.
can you tell me what your tattoos are?
Which one? Okay, well, you can't really see this one. So this is my military arm.
Okay.
So if you're anti-military, you probably won't like them. This is for my daughters. It's a Celtic father-daughter knot.
Nice.
That's just a tribal because I wanted one. What do we got? So this is a Gadsden's flag.
Okay.
And
What's a
you
Gadsden's flag?
So you guys have seen it. It's a yellow flag with a snake on it. It says, "Don't tread on
Yeah,
me."
yeah.
So
It's like a libertarian.
it actually
icon,
started
isn't
Benjamin
it?
Franklin. They're going to say someone else came with it, but it was actually Benjamin Franklin said the words, and he was saying it to the British, like, "Hey, look, you're going to come after us. Don't tread on us. We're
Benjamin
going to
Franklin.
mess you up, right?"
That's a man right
So
there.
Admiral Gadsden gave it to a revolutionary colonel, and they made it's actually an adopted flag of the Navy today. So when people say, "Well, it's this and that's," I'm like, "No, it's still a military flag. There's no racial implications. It's actually just being proud of the military."
Right.
My dog tags.
Nice.
Molin Lave, that's old from ancient Greek, Latin. You guys all saw 300, but what it means is come take them. the literal translation because them was, I'm not an English major, but was implied. So if the Greek translation was once the Persians said, hey, look, put down your weapons and everything's cool. And they're like, come and get them. What they really said was having come, take. Because the word them was implied or whatever the rules of grammar are. So that's basically a long-winded explanation for that.
Yeah.
And then that's a unit tattoo, and there's the flag in United States Navy, the anchor.
Nice.
Not very exciting,
So
but
the Navy, were you on nuclear ships?
no, I wasn't on any ships. I was
No? Okay.
Yeah, I wore camouflage, and I was over in the Gulf.
Okay.
And before that, I was a weather guesser.
Yeah.
So I'm not a real sailor, I guess.
Well, what is a sailor?
Well, there's animosity. The people that wear the blue jeans on the boats, the real sailors. Oh yeah.
There's beef in the Navy?
I didn't realize they're not huge fans all the time of the cami wearing Navy because they feel that we got treated different and special and all that good stuff.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow. I would say the people on the boats would be treated more special.
No, it's volunteer, right? It's a tough gig. It's a lot of hard work.
Right.
Any serviceman, whether
Yeah.
you agree or disagree with the military, thank them and just be on your way.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's one of those things where if it's out of sight, a lot of people just don't have a clear vision of what that would actually be like. And a lot of times I would assume people who have been in the military in some form don't necessarily like talking about the experiences and trying to say, listen, this is what it's really like. It's almost just like, take my word for it, but people kind of take that.
You assume it should be implied.
Yeah.
I got a question for you before we go.
Yeah.
Do we have time for a question?
Sure.
You don't know me. You just met me. What would you say I did for a living? Be honest. You can't hurt my feelings. I'm old.
Like if I just saw you,
Yeah.
I would say, honestly, somebody who works on motorcycles. Honestly.
I'll
But
take
without
the
knowing that
compliment.
you even
I can.
rode.
That's cool. I wish I could.
Yeah.
That's an impressive skill.
Honestly, if I had just met you, just on your personality and stuff, I feel like that would
I've gotten
probably make sense
confused.
to me.
Quick story.
Yeah.
And this will sum it up. This happened a million times. I'm at Harvard. I used to get to work pretty early because I only live 20 miles away, but it could take 2 hours. So a lot of the work there is done overnight and early morning. So Siemens, a big contract comes. So I park in the garage, and I dress like this. Very liberal how you can dress. It's awesome unless you have a big meeting. You have guys wearing shorts in the summer. So I'm in a T-shirt, jeans. I walk up, and it's a beep door to get through our access. You get the badge. I must have mine in my pocket. And there's guys carrying boxes, and they're moving stuff. I'm about to walk in. The door's propped open. They're moving. And I hear a lady, and I hear someone go, hey. And I turn around, and I go, me? And she pointed at me. She goes, yeah. I go, yeah, what's going on? She goes, why are you going empty-handed? I go, huh? And she goes, take those and follow those guys. I'm like, all right. So I picked up a couple boxes, and I followed the guys.
Yeah.
Then I went and sat in my cube. And then about an hour later, the door's shut. I had to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom. I come back in, and she was out there. So I take out my badge, and I put it on the door. And I opened the door, I turned around, and she's just looking at me, and I just smiled. I go, what? I go, I work here. She goes, you work here? I go, yeah. I go, see that big boss's office? I sit right beside him in that little cube over there. She goes, what? And I go, it's all right. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
She goes, I got to ask a question. I go, what? She goes, why'd you carry the boxes? I go, because you asked me to, and I'm a gentleman. She goes, I'm sorry. I'm like, not at all.
Oh, I'm sure you get that all the time, though. People just not fully embracing all that you could be and all that you are.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
It's the shirts, man.
It's the shirts.
That's what it is.
The W, you don't like the whiskey tango?
I love it.
I know.
love it.
I love it. But yeah, it's I think fashion choices will give people either, so it's like a personal choice for you and you're like, I feel good in this. And then I do feel like sometimes other people, the judging a book by its cover thing, completely true. Somebody could be dressed in a suit and do something that is completely not dressing in a suit
I love
related.
when you pull up in the Harleys. And by the way, any shirt, tank tops, and they're all picked up by my girlfriend. The next shirt I buy will be my first one a long time. It used to be mom, and then whoever's in my life.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
My girlfriend's got the exquisite taste. I love walking in there, and there's some suits in there, and they're looking at us like we're dirt bags. Dave's a CPA.
Exactly.
Kirk owns a plumbing business. I'm an engineer. It's
Exactly.
like, all right, I get we don't look like Einsteins, but
That's great. It's almost like a superpower.
That's the beautiful thing about being on a Harley, though, is that you kind of become incognito. Nobody knows what you do when you're on a Harley.
Well put.
Everybody kind of puts on the same thing and
That
does the
was
same
that was like
thing.
one of those deep thoughts from the guy in Saturday Night
That's
Live.
going to end
Jack
up on
Handy.
a T-shirt
That
that
was
you're going
pretty
to
good.
wear.
Yeah, I like that.
I appreciate that.
Well, this has been a fantastic coffee talk. Thank you so much, Bobby. This was great.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, and happy birthday, Ryan.
Oh, thank you.
Bow, bow.